Hello everyone. What I want to show you right now are two files, customers, plural, customers.jsp and modify.jsp. And both of those files you have in your root of your 4368. Now, mine is on the left and yours is on the right here, your directory structure that you cloned. You can see that you have customer form, customers, plural, index, of course, for the main page, modify.jsp, and thanks. And we're going to go over those right now. So get this out of the way here. And here is customer form. Okay, and I'm not going to go into the query string again because we've talked about that at length. In the last video, I talked about display customers. Now, yours is not going to work yet until we do some coding for display customers. So yours is not going to work. It will at the end of these videos for Project 2, but right now it's not going to work. So click on display customers, and then you should see the customers you have. You always want to make sure that it reflects the actual data repository. So I did a quick select all there for you. I'll do it again, and you can see that the data repository actually reflects the web interface. And there's some other things that you'll find interesting as well too, using a bootstrap functionality with data tables, and we'll show you how that works. That's actually in your code that you've been given, so I'll go over that in a second. Now, what I want to do is make sure that you realize that there's other additional functionality, the CRUD, right? Create, read, update, and delete. So here we're reading all the data from customers. We actually have some sort functionality, so I could do ascending or descending sorts on the first name, last name, street, city, state, zip, phone. I could do ascending, descending. I could do pagination. Now we only have 5 records, so if we had more, we could paginate 10, 25, 50, or all the records. So it would go by however many you wanted to see on each page. And say you had 100 records and you only wanted to show 10, well then there would be other buttons. There would be 10 buttons that would be listed over here. Then I could go next or click one of the buttons associated with the records. So that's a cool functionality of data tables. Another one is this. I could start doing a search. Say I want to do a search by just the state of Florida. So I'll type in F and L, and notice how it reduces the search based upon the characters that you type. I want to find last name of Fuller. Okay, so I'll type in F, U, and notice it found Fuller last name. Okay, we'll do one more over here. I say I want to do an email address, so I'll type in I don't know, bbob for billybob@aol.com, right? So B, notice how it is reducing the search, B-O-B, and there it is right there. Okay, so again, some neat functionality that you get with data tables. Also, we have edit capability too that you'll have here, and notice that the edit capability includes the fact that it will only pick up the particular record that you selected. So here I selected so for this one it's going to be Billy Bob. If I click edit here, it's going to show Billy Bob. If I clicked another one, say for Stevie Ray here, I'll select this edit button here, and there's Stevie Ray. It only selects the one that I choose. Here's Bobby Sue. I'm going to edit Bobby Sue's record, and there's all the information for Bobby Sue. It's important that it only picks up that specific record. Next, I want to delete a record. Okay, so I'm going to delete a record by doing this. I'll delete Billy Bob. Now notice it doesn't delete it right away. That's important. And we're going to show that how to include that functionality. You don't want it to delete right away. You want to make sure, are you sure? Tell the user, are you sure you want to delete this record? Oh no, I hit the delete button by accident. So cancel that, okay? Let's try to delete, I don't know, Stevie Ray, okay? Are you sure you want to delete? Yes, this time I'm sure. Okay, notice that it's gone. And just to double check, all you have to do is go into the data repository, do a select all, and you can see now no longer do we have 5 records. We only have 4. And what I'm going to do right now is just to make sure we're starting with a clean database here. I'm going to go back here and grab the data here for A3, and I'm going to and this is something that you probably want to do as well too, gang, is have Workbench open with all your data, and that way you could, update, delete, insert as much as you want to, and then you could always go back to the original data source just by forward engineering it. And you know that it's going to work properly because when we forward engineered it in assignment number 3, it had to work properly. So I'm going to forward engineer this locally. Always make sure you select the local connection and do next and next. Oh, let me back up here. Make sure that you have these 4 checkboxes, right? Generate insert statements, drop object before each create object, generate drop schema, and add show warnings. Make sure all 4 of those are selected. If you don't have this selected, gang, generate inserts, if you don't have that selected, it's not going to add any data. So we're going to do next and next and next, and successfully did all that. I'm going to close out of that. Then I'm going to do a select all again here. So select all, and now I see I have my original 5 records back. Okay, so there's all the functionality for this, actually for the entire work that we've been doing, the culminating work here, project 2. We can add records, we can display records, we can edit records, and then finally we can delete records. But make sure again you give the user the option of canceling if they change their mind or hit the delete button by accident. Okay, now with that said, what I want to do now is show you the differences in your customers.jsp file. So that would be in this particular file, customers.jsp. Now I gave you some code to begin, and what I'm going to do now is show you the differences here between mine and yours. I'm going to make this a little bit larger here, yours as well too. So, and let's begin the difference. So I'm only going to stop on the differences, gang. Now, one thing, you guys, please don't have my name in your meta tag for author. Put your name in there. Make sure you change the title tag as well. It shouldn't be course XXXX. It should be LIS4368. Okay. All right, with that said, let's go through this. So we're in the customers, plural, customers.jsp file, diffing, comparing my file on the left to your file on the right. Okay, first difference is a timestamp. No big deal, don't worry about that. Next, this is a huge deal. Make sure you capture these. So I gave you F name, L name, and email. On the left, you see that you need street, city, state, zip, and phone. So what I'm going to do is hit the letter A, which is going to transfer that over, and that is what you need to add so far. There are others as well too. So add F name and L name, then add street, city, state, zip, phone, and then you already have email. Let's go next, and you need to add balance, total sales, and notes. So I'm going to hit the letter A again. There it is. Notice that with Emacs diff program, it will show the difference that was previously included in there. Notice here lines 49 through 53. It'll show that, right? And also includes the new differences. So on yours would be 55, 56, and lines 57. Balance, total space, sales, and notes. Now, what will that give us? What will that give us? That will give us this header right here, okay? So F name, L name, street, city, state, zip, total space, sales. We don't need total underscore here because we're just showing a header. And that's all this is just the header. As you can see, it's the T head tag. And then the end T head tag on line 61. Okay, so that's all in the same block. So again, make sure that you add street, city, state, zip, phone, balance, total sales, and notes. Let's see what other differences we have here. All right, in the actual for each. Now, what is the for each? Look at my lines 84 through 88 on the left-hand side and why they are pink. I'm going to hit my letter A to add them to yours. Notice that you have F name, L name, and email, but you have to add street, city, state, zip, and phone. Why? Because what we're doing here, gang, is we're actually looping through all the records in this table using the for each implementation of the Java Server Pages tag library that we have to pull in, and we can use the for each property, if you will, to loop through all of the users. Now, one thing I want to say here that's not particularly clear, and it will be clear, though, it will be evident when we go through the servlet and the customer db.java file. I also put some code in here. Now, you initially didn't have this, but I added it to it. So if you do a new clone, you'll see this in your customers.jsp file. I'll make this a little bit smaller so you can see all the comments that I did here. Then I'll make it larger. I added comments right here, okay, about what's going on below. And it says here, the items contains an array list. So here are the items in this code for each. And let me make it larger again. Okay, so here are the comments that I provided for you. And if you just do another clone, you will see this in your customers.jsp file. So the items are really what's being captured from the processing of this customers.jsp. As I mentioned to you before, customers.jsp and modified.jsp are both processed with the servlet, customer servlet, and the customer db.java file. And that's in our data package. So when we get to the customer servlet, and I'll go through the code that we have to change, and the customer db.java file and the code that we have to change there, I'll show you how this is interworking. But realize that the items is just containing an array list. Now, it can also contain an object array, and it can loop through that. But what it's saying here essentially is this. What's ever passed back to this particular section of code, here it's users. Now we're getting users because that's coming from customer servlet and the customer db.java file, which is actually a class because we compiled it, right? So we compiled both of those into classes. One's a servlet class and one's a just a regular Java class. But from there, we're getting an actual array list, and then we're going to use this variable that we're called here user. Now, users is something that we have to use. You'll see in our code from customer servlet and customer DB. But user is just a variable that we're saying that we're going to iterate through, as you can see in the comments over here. var is simply a user-defined variable, and it's used to access the current element while we're looping through all this data. So when we're looping through all the data of the table, we're capturing all of these records, Billy, Bob, Bobby, Sue, etc. and we're getting the F name, L name, street, city, state, zip for all of these. So here again, going back, we have to pull in the Java Server Pages tag library. We're pulling in an array list called users, and that is associated with the items property. And then we're creating a variable called user. And the for each is saying we're going to loop through all of these F name, L name, street, city, state, zip of this particular user, all of these properties for that user, and then we're going to show the data. So you have to add to your code user.street, user.city, user.state, user.zip, and user.phone. Also, you're going to have to add something else, and that is the user.balance and user.total capital S sales. So let's add that right now. And notice also we're including the cout. The cout. Why is the cout? Remember before, what the cout does, it prevents cross-site scripting. Okay. One other thing to note, that in the user balance and total sales, we're aligning the text to the right. Why? Because they're numbers. So we want the balance and total sales aligned to the right. The rest of the data could be aligned left. But you want balance, you want numeric data aligned to the right, so it's properly aligned. And that's why we did that. We just did text hyphen right, and that comes from the Bootstrap capabilities. All right, so we added street, city, state, zip, phone. Underneath email, we added user.balance, user.total sales, and we already had, no, we have to add user.notes as well too. And we text hyphen right, the balance and total sales, and see if there's any other differences here. And there are none. That's it, gang. Those are all the differences here. Now, one more thing, I'm just going to go back here. I'm going to make this its own page. So, and then I'm going to make this a little bit larger so you can see the comments. Here are the added comments, and I added this after the fact just for clarification. If you want to add those, notice that I put them in JSP style comments. There's the opening delimiter. There's my multiple line starting comment. There's my multiple line ending comment, and then there's the end delimiter. So this is JSP comments, and that's saying exactly what's going on behind the scenes right here. Okay? Now, one other thing I want to talk about, actually two other things, and that is the edit and the delete functionality. Notice it's adding a button for each of these records for both editing and deleting. How do I get these buttons? I get these buttons right here. Now, this was given to you, by the way, but just so that you know, here's the code for that. So when this button is clicked, it's going to pass a hidden field with the name property passing the value of modify underscore customer. And this is going to be important because when we get to the customer servlet as well as the customer DB file, it needs to find out what specific user do you want to modify. And so from there we use the property ID. And again, as above, we're grabbing all the properties, F name, L name, street, city, state, zip, and that particular user's ID. We're doing the same thing for the delete capability. But here, instead of passing a hidden field modify customer, which, by the way, look where it's going. It's going to the customer admin servlet, and we used a web annotation. The actual name of the servlet is customer servlet, but that's where we're passing it to. And then we're passing it the value modify customer. For the delete, we're passing in a value of delete underscore customer, and it's a hidden field as well too. We're adding a little bit something else. We're adding some JavaScript here, and that is Return, confirm, do you really want to delete the record? Do you really want to delete this record? Now, gang, one thing to realize, now I gave you this code, but realize that because we are using a double quotation for a string value, this is actually a string value that will display, right? It displays like this in a prompt like this. And now how it does that is it says here return confirm. It's a confirm prompt. It's a JavaScript confirm prompt. Notice that there's single quotes inside of the do you really want to delete record. Why? It has to have single quotes because you cannot have double quotes. We already started double quotes. We have double quotes to end this, to begin and end the string. That is the statement, this JavaScript statement, which is a string. So we cannot have double quotes inside of double quotes. So what we have are single quotes inside of double quotes. So single quote, do you really want to delete record, question mark, end single quote, end parenthesis, and semicolon to end that JavaScript statement, and then finally the ending the two-sided double quotation mark. Again, we're passing this to the customer admin servlet, which is really customer servlet, and we're passing it the ID. Now look what's going on behind the scenes here, gang, for edit and delete. I'm going to hit view page source. Another debugging technique is to make sure if it's not deleting the correct data values, make sure that the code is working properly. So here, when I look at each one of the rows, when I do view source, I'm saying that yes, I'm going to modify and delete record value 1. Okay, so that would be for this particular record here, record 1. Next, I want to make sure that each one of the records can be edited or deleted. So here are the modify for value 2 and the delete for value 2, etc., etc. Do the same thing here, modify and delete for record 3. So a good debugging technique is if your code is not working properly, just view the source and make sure that the data is exactly the way it should be. And that is pulling the data for the primary key. All right, so that is the comparison for customers.jsp. Next is the comparison for modify.jsp. Okay, I already have this pulled up right here. I'm going to make this a little bit larger and make your side a little bit larger as well too. Mine is on the left, yours is on the right. Where are we getting that from? We're getting that from right here, modify.jsp, at the root of your 4368. Okay, so again, we're doing the comparison right now. Mine is on the left, yours is on the right. Let's do the differentiation. Okay, there is a timestamp diff. We don't care about that. No big deal here. The timestamp is indicating there's a modification to your file here. No big deal. Next, we go to a main diff. And I'm going to have to make this a little bit smaller so you can see all the code here. And then I'll make it a little bit larger. So you were given user.fname, user.lname, user.email, and what you need to add is on the left in the pink, and that is street, city, state, zip, phone. If you look to the left, gang, my line 94, you don't have to add that line 94 because you already have that for user email on your user email side. So you could see right here you have that div class form underscore group, and all that is bootstrap. So you have to add user.street, user.city, user.state, user.zip, and user.phone to your fname, lname, and email. Okay, and I'll make this a little bit larger here in a second. I just want to go through the diffs. So that's that. Next, underneath your email, you're going to have to add user.balance, user.total sales, and realize that the S is capitalized, gang. If you don't look on my left side there, line 111, you must capitalize the S, otherwise it's not going to work. And then user.notes. And we have two more diffs here. Now, gang, I'm not going to go into the client-side validation. This file is called modified.jsp. Now, all you have to do, to be quite honest with you, is copy and paste the client-side validation that we did in assignment number 4 and add that to the modified.jsp. So, in other words, in project 2, when we go to the modify of each one of these, it should do the same server-side and client-side validation. All right. Now, in here, notice that I have here, just so that you know, notice that my client-side validation is not going to work right now because I have the client-side JavaScript actually turned off. If I make this larger, so do you, by the way, too. If you look at your line right here, to make the client-side data validation to work, you're going to have to make sure that this is not commented. So it's going to have to be turned off, or I should say turned on, by uncommenting the comments that we have on your line 78. And I purposefully did that so you could test your server-side validation. Okay? So again, going through the diffs here, this is just the client-side validation, and you could just copy and paste the client-side validation that you did in assignment 4. So I'm going to go back to just the most important parts here, and that is the, let me do, go back here, let me make this a little bit smaller so you could see that. And let me make yours a little bit smaller so you could actually get the 30,000 foot view. And let me start adding these. So you can see that you have user F name, L name. I'm just going to hit A. And notice that what it's going to do is add what you need there. Make sure you copy it exactly. Street, city, state, zip, phone. Let's go to the next one. And you could pause it. And don't forget, under email, you're going to have to add user.balance, user.total sales, and user.notes. Now, what I'm going to do at this point is just put, this is your file right here. I'm going to make that into a little bit larger like this so you could see all the code. So what you're going to do is add everything from line 101 and stop at line 120. So you're going to add user.balance, user.total sales, and user.notes. Realize that total sales, the S is capitalized, and then above, what you're going to add, I'll have to make this a little bit smaller so you can see all of it, from line 59 to line 92. I guess I can make this larger. Yeah, there you go. So user.street, user.city, user.state, user.zip, user.phone. Make sure you also modify correctly the names, gang. Don't just copy and paste. Look at the names of each. So on line 62, the name is street, right? The name is street. Name is city, line 69. Name is state, line 76, etc. Zip for line 83. Phone for line 90. So make sure that you have those correctly as well too. All right, gang, that's it. And we'll go on to the servlet and the customer DB in the next video.